Hi guys, so as you're planning your wedding, you're going to be offered all kinds of advice, both sought out from YouTube and wedding planning books, and also completely unsolicited from well-meaning people in your life. So today I'm going to make a video about the wedding advice that I would give myself as someone who has sort of planned a wedding. We planned round one of our wedding, and then our wedding was postponed due to crazy things that are happening in the world. You can check out another video that I made on why we decided to postpone our wedding. And now I feel like I've kind of been given a second chance on wedding planning. So in round two, I want to listen to these 12 very important pieces of advice that I'm giving to myself, and hopefully by sharing them here, you can learn from them as well, learn from my mistakes. My name is Brittany from wayfaringweddings.com. I'm currently sharing any kind of research that I've done on having a budget-friendly and eco-friendly wedding on there, and now on YouTube. So please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and follow me along on this fun wedding planning journey. And if you think of any other really important pieces of wedding advice that you've heard from your friends or family members, or that you yourself would recommend based on your own wedding, let me know in the comments. Let me know what kind of advice you would give to other people. Because this isn't easy, and for most people this is the first time they're ever doing something like this. So even though there are literal guidebooks on how to plan your wedding and people to help you with this, the advice is never cookie cutter. It's never one size fits all, I mean. So it's good to have a lot of different voices and then sift through them and sort of make our own list of advice of what's going to work for us personally, which is what I'm doing today. So these are the 12 pieces of advice I would give myself. I hope that you benefit from them. Okay, Brittany, piece of advice number one is to not conform to any kind of traditions, rituals, or wedding expectations without questioning them first. So this seems maybe kind of obvious to a lot of people that you shouldn't just do things just because, but it's something that I think I need to keep in mind. So for example, a bouquet toss, a first dance, walking down the aisle with your dad, having bridesmaids, any kind of ritual or tradition in the world, I would first like to question it, to tell myself to critically think about why I am doing these things and make sure I'm not just doing them because it's the thing to do. And I suggest the same for you. Don't feel like you have to do anything. Literally, you can do what you want. Number two is don't spend a huge chunk of your wedding day taking posed photos. And this is probably something that's not popular to say. I'm sorry to all the photographers out there, but I've never understood why a couple takes an entire hour or sometimes more taking photos that are posed instead of enjoying their cocktail hour. I would much prefer to just ask my photographer to take candid photos. Those are always the best ones anyway. And maybe take 20 minutes of photos, but I don't need every combination of my family members with me in 100 different photos, or what I personally see as kind of cheesy posed photos with my partner. I don't really like looking at pictures like that. When I see a lot of different posed photos, I just know that that was me missing a good time and posing for photos. But I know a lot of people feel differently about this. I would just say try to limit as much as possible the time that you're taking doing posed photos, and instead have actual fun and ask your photographer to take pictures of that. Number three, third piece of advice, is to prioritize fun over decorations. So while decorations are really beautiful on Pinterest, and while we do appreciate pretty decorations at a wedding, they're not important compared to so many other factors. So focus on things like making your guests feel good, making your ceremony script really cool and unique and authentic, and then decorations can be kept simple or they're secondary. There doesn't need to be a lot of money, time, energy, DIYing overboard on decor, in my opinion. Fourth piece of advice, act like the rain plan, the plan for rain, is plan A. If you're having an outdoor wedding, which I am, act like it's going to rain. Plan like it's gonna rain. Imagine the day, visualize the day as if it's pouring the entire time and plan for that. That will make it so that logistically and mentally you're ready for any kind of weather. And then if it happens to be sunny, cool, that's great. Fifth piece of advice, hire staffing and delegate tasks to your friends and family if they've offered. Staffing is really important. We didn't really consider this, but I would have had to hire people. So this just means for setup and especially for cleaning up, for busing, it shouldn't be left to your guests to figure it out on their own. So it's good to have staff to just sort of make sure the area is clean and nice, and it doesn't have to be anything fancy, but maybe like a small team of people who can just sort of, this is their job to run around and do this. If you do have people in your family or friends who have offered to do this, that's great, but keep in mind as people like start to have fun and drink and get tired, tearing down at the end of the night doesn't become really a top priority. And then delegate things that aren't super important to you. So maybe things that you don't really want to do or aren't something you're super excited about or that you have low expectations for. See if you can delegate that out to a trusted friend or family member. Piece of advice number 6 is to cool it on the timeline preparation. I think that we have become so obsessed by this minute by minute wedding planning timeline stuff, and I know that if you're gonna pull off something really intricate, like lots of little details throughout your wedding, you do have to have a really tight timeline, really well thought out timeline. But I think it's better to just simplify, cut back. Oh, why have weddings become such complicated circus, 3-ring circus shows that all have to be like compacted into 6 hours and we have to do this and this and this and this? It doesn't have to be that stressful if you don't want it to be. You just have to cut out a lot of these little rituals and things that are supposedly necessary but maybe aren't that important to you. If they are important to you, keep them, but if they're not, consider cutting out all of the little things, cake cutting, garter toss, bouquet toss, all of these little things that you feel like you have to do throughout the night. Grand entrance, you don't need to have a grand entrance. That's like kind of a recent phenomenon. And if you just get rid of all this extra stuff, don't have an hour of photos, enjoy your cocktail hour, have candids taken, and then just like enjoy your night, and you don't have to have this complicated timeline of all of these things that you have to do. 7th piece of advice is to have good food and enough of it. You, Brittany, did not consider your food early enough, so really get on this for the future. Go for food that's not expensive but that's really delicious and that everybody loves, and consider everybody's food allergies and food preferences. Have good stuff for the vegetarians. And have enough of it, because remember that wedding where you guys got up to the buffet line and they were out of food, and that was crazy, and it was a really nice wedding, but they didn't consider having enough food. So make sure you have way too much food, more food than you need. If it doesn't all get eaten, you'll eat it for a midnight snack when everybody's drunk and excited to have a midnight snack. It won't go to waste. My 8th piece of advice, I know I don't really have to tell myself this, but have an open bar. It doesn't matter if it's not a full bar, it doesn't matter if it's not fancy, it just has to be maybe beer and wine, and it's free and everybody's happy. Signature, pretty complicated signature drinks are not necessary. Have a keg. Have a keg and some bottles of wine, something refreshing for a summer day. Just make it free and everyone's gonna have a great time. Number 9, make guest comfort a priority. This should really be number 1. So because your wedding is gonna be outside, have lots of bug spray, have blankets for at night when it gets cold. Don't let guests be sitting under the hot sun and direct sun during your ceremony. Make sure that they have shade, make sure they have plenty of places to sit. Everything you do, make sure it's with guest comfort in mind. And then for mingling and stuff, have a welcome party or welcome dinner so people can get to know other people. Maybe have people wear name tags. If that sounds kind of tacky, I mean, whatever. I think it's super convenient to be able to see somebody's name. Maybe they make pretty name tags somewhere, look into that. Yeah, so guest comfort, both like mentally, socially comfortable and physically comfortable. This is so important. Number 10 is to invite people who are actually important to you. We've already done this. Unfortunately, we had to cut out a whole bunch of my extended family from our wedding because we're having just a tiny little budget-friendly, intimate wedding. For you guys, you might be able to invite all of your family members, and that's great. And then on top of that, don't feel pressured. Don't feel like you have to do obligation invites like coworkers and bosses and people that you haven't seen for a long time, but you were invited to their wedding. Just invite people who you genuinely like spending time with, and the more people that you have that you actually love and care about, the better the vibe will be. You know, it will be more representative of who you really are when you have guests who you actually love and want to be there. Number 11 on my list is to choose entertainment or music that suits both you and your guests. So this is something I need to tell myself because I think I can get a little bit selfish with music choices. You have to take your guests' music taste into consideration and play the kind of music that they like too. And the way that we did this is we just asked on our RSVP what kind of music, what song will get you out on the dance floor. So we're going to be playing music that our guests have actually told us they want to hear. And just like crowd pleasers that will get people dancing all night. I think if you want to have a packed, fun dance floor, you really have to do this. You can't just be playing like really obscure indie B-sides that you're into. You gotta listen to your crowd. And finally, number 12, my 12th piece of advice on this list is to choose a few things that are really important to you and to Phil, and only concentrate on those things. Let everything else fall away. Because I think when we're trying to all concentrate on 100 wedding details, we go crazy, and then when things go wrong, we're really upset about them. If we instead just choose 3 or 4 things that we actually care about, and then put all of our energy, time, and most of our budget into these few things, and then everything else we have lower expectations for. We delegate these things out to other people. If they're not perfect, we're gonna be fine with it, and we go into it with this sort of mentality instead of putting everything, all of our expectations on all 100 details, which is not realistic. Then things will go much better. So that's my 12th piece of advice here. So I hope these were useful for you guys. I hope that you can learn from some of my mistakes. I'm about to learn from my own mistakes. And please check out some of my other videos here. I'm just explaining as much as possible about the things that I learn as I'm planning my own wedding round 2. And I also have a lot of great articles on my blog to help you plan both a unique wedding and a wedding that will be the best ever. So I'll link some of those articles below. Have a lovely day, everybody, and thank you for watching.
Wait for it.